Hey, so while all my rats are downstairs hiding out in the cool rescue from the heatwave, thought it'd be a nice opportunity to sort of show a bit about my cage setup. So this is what my cages at home look like. We'll start at the top. I keep smaller amounts of the bits that I need up here because I struggle to lift full-size bags. That's a show slash display travel cage that I made from a mouse cage that rats come with when we go to do teaching and stuff at TAFEs like that, seeing as we need something small and portable but that people can see the rats through while I'm talking. Zeolite for ammonia control in the corners, Vetafarm. This is a bucket that I use for spot cleans, just to take the worst bits out in between full cleans and do little litter tray changes and stuff like that. Bit of variety for food. Some spots up there because they do come up here for free roam, which is why I've got little bridges and bits and pieces. And there's also a few different enrichment toys up here that I leave up here during free roam, and that's my show cage that I deck out to go to shows with. And then I've actually got a couple of shelves on the edge. I did have them inside the cages, but they just became P-trap ledges. I've got a few things handy. These I use to add food to for enrichment. A few snuggle sacks. A bit of grain-free dog food that I use for treats and things like that. So these cages are actually, they're pretty much the same top and bottom. So we've got girls up the top, boys down the bottom, and then two cages that are singles there that I use for maternity and foster. So I'll show you the top ones, and the bottom ones are pretty much the same. Salt pigs for the cool, some extra ledges. They love peeing on this ledge for some reason, so hence the litter. Try and help manage that. Rodent wheel. Not ideal size, but the best we've got in Australia. I've actually zip tied an extra block on the back there for stability. We've got various hides. Shredded paper for warmth. They love their orb, which is just acrylic bowls that I've acroglued together. I make plenty of recycled toys using beads, other destroyed toys. You can see this was either a log hide or a ladder that was destroyed, and so, the wire from this is just, it's just clips that are taken off a couple of raggedy hammocks, wire taken out of a broken notebook that's just stretched out, and it's so easy to just make your own toys. I've got my hotel rat enrichment toys in it. Water hoppers. Rats really, really love to be able to splash around in water, but it's really hard to do because they get junk in it, and then when the cage is wet, that's when it gets smelly and disgusting and bacterial. So I use these water hoppers, and I've got them suspended on these stainless steel cooling racks that I've used stainless steel chains to hang up in the cage. And it's worth noting, for some of these I've added, so for example, this is just affixed to here, so I'd need a pair of pliers to remove that. But on this side, there's a quick release clip. So I can just clip this end off, dump this into the litter tray when I change the litter tray, and give it a wipe over and clean in space, and then pick it back up. I'll probably add quick release clips to this end as well. But yeah, and hides can be anything. So this is a bowl with some holes in it. These are some patches that I've added extra things to so they could hold a hammock on the side. My boy Frankie used to really, really love doing that. Always keep multiple water bottles on hides all the time. These are hides from Lex's new business. Oh my god, am I going to have to put it in the comments because I can't remember. But Ali bought us some, which are gorgeous, and I can't wait to show those off. Again, like ladders and log hides, they're a bit of a pain in the ass to clean because these being so close to each other, it just traps. Usually they're sort of together like that with a wire just running through. I've put stainless steel wire in, and this paint that's on those will just flake off over various washes, whereas the paint that's on the wood will adhere. So there's hammocks. If you're going to use hammocks, you've got to change them every couple of days. Hides can be anything. This is an old light fitting that is plastic that a friend's dad pulled out of a garbage bin for me. Various ones of these, when these run out of like half of their wood, I chuck them in a big box and then combine them all and just add different things with different textures. We're playing a bit with P-rocks in there just to encourage that. These are some enrichment toys that I made just by combining other ones together. There's a thing there, there's a wood block inside to stop the bamboo from rolling around and make it a little harder to get the treats out of. And then there's a coconut lid, and you can see I've just put some walnuts in there. There's good evidence to say that walnuts reduce memory tumour risk in mice. Another little bowl hide that they quite like, again with little quick release clips on it, so that these stay here so you can see exactly where it's meant to be hung up, and you can still take it down and clean it. I'm trying to make my cage cleaning as easy as possible, because I do struggle a lot with physical health, and often I do get limited hours with a support worker each week to help me out with stuff, and often I'll get them to help me out with some of the physical stuff. So having things that are really easy to clean but also really easy to put back together really helps them out a lot. So some perches and logs. I like to, with these, so that they don't bounce and rattle around and start bending the bars, I like to just add an extra hook and some extra stainless steel hooks and just make it a little bit more sturdy. Sturdy is good, but also so is something jiggly, get them working, get them agile. So the boys' cage is set up pretty much the same as the girls' cage. When we get cardboard boxes, every rat loves a cardboard box. I just use a scalpel to punch a hole somewhere and let them have at it. I've got some more water bottles here. These are quite big, sturdy ones that are top filling. They prefer to use the other little water bottles. I think because this one has a nipple nozzle on it, which is, one of these ones. But, given that I've got quite a few rats in there, I've got, 10 girls-ish across this cage. It's good to have some backup water, and this one's a really easy one for me to fill, even on days where my mobility is really, really, really low, and I might not be able to, do multiple trips back and forth to the kitchen, just because I've just got to account for all days. There's some days where I can clean and reset the whole cage. There's some days where I can, use mobility aids to waddle out here and tip some water with a jug. Some days I can't hold a mug. You get the point. I say this not to be depressing, but because that's the reality of a lot of people's lives, and disabled people can be absolutely fantastic rat owners as well, so long as you have the supports in place to help you overcome the things your disability stopped you doing. I was using this cage for some fosters, but I also use it for maternity. I do have a big, like a bona fido but bigger, that I also whip out as a maternity cage. But this is set up very similarly. Obviously when we have pinkies and baby rats, there's definitely a lot of modifications that get made. Tend to use the other cage for that, so I don't have to take out all of the big bits like this, because even if you've got a really smart mama, pinkies can cling onto the nipple, and if mum starts bouncing around looking for treats, a pinky could get in between here and get stuck, and mum could try and pull it out, and you could end up with deaths or traumas or limb loss, and obviously things like water hoppers. It's way too easy for accidents to happen. One thing about why I have these up on shelves is to, one, so they don't track litter and stuff in there, and two, so that it stays nice and dry. I've only got sort of this underneath where it can quite easily dry off. More toys and stuff. You know, these little cups were from a toy that was going to go in the rubbish, and so I've just drilled a hole in it, and now I can just stash a few trees in there. These bits of wood chunk here, you can see that there'll be an X drawn on that because they were actually the offcuts from when I made my cage bases out of timber. So traditional Critter Nation cage bases, they're on wheels and they've sort of got a lower rung here that you can put stuff on. But I really struggle to get up and down and get things out from underneath. And so, doing this, I've got to put some handles on these boxes. I can easily get a vacuum in underneath, but I've left the front open so that I can have boxes underneath with all of my rat stuff in it. So I've got my hammocks, I've got some spare stuff, I've got plastic ramps that have been modified with drills, hold and extra clips added so that I've got ramps for when I've got old elderly boys that need a little bit more support getting in and around the cage. A snuggle safe, some different enrichment toys, flats and doubles. I've probably not done due diligence in naming all of the places I'm getting all of this stuff from. I'll try and do a better job of that. I'm just trying to focus on not making everyone seasick with the thing. I get a lot of questions about these. These are called rat forms. I bought the non-sellable file from a Etsy store, and I've been printing them out myself. Whoops, go back on. They clip on really, really smoothly. I don't think the seller's still active. I've heard in the wind that a local 3D printing rat manufacturer might have been working for a long time on making some sort of similar modular movable cleanable platform, but you know, who am I to say? The spare bits from having the Critter Nations joined together, and that was another reason that I made the bases, because the bases for these had a screw that went out the side, and while I could have just welded the base together, I can't weld, I didn't have anyone on hand who could within driving distance, and I wanted to be able to vacuum and store under my cages. So rat stuff, this is a lot of stuff that I bring to shows, and then over the other side there is the stuff for the rattery, so birth certificates, business cards, some photo props and things like that. And then the shelves up here, at the moment there's a bit of like medications and dermal stuff, stuff that I don't, you know, my girls are pretty good on chewing, but they're, you know, stuff that it's not dangerous, of course. Most of my rat medications are in the fridge. But yeah, I think that's the basic design gist of my cage. If anyone has any questions, feel free. I guess what else? That's pretty much it as far as plans here. I know I need to drill a water bottle hole and add something to suspend a water bottle more easily in my carrier. I prefer this carrier because it's one of the ones that they don't like to chew on, and it doesn't have any fragile lids that have broken hinges and stuff. If you find areas in your rat cage where your rats are peeing a lot, consider adding trays, adding things to control the ammonia. Basically, you want it to be able to dry out, and you want it to be able to maintain the ammonia. So I've got in here, it's stablemate, so that's a zeolite, which is a mineral. It's this stuff. It does look dusty. It is sort of the texture of sand, but I actually got the MSDS off the company, and it doesn't have any long fibers, so no sort of asbestos risk with this, and it is so dense and heavy that, like you can see, I've tossed it in here and straight away you can't see it. Like this is just where I've scooped it in on top of the litter, and as soon as that litter is agitated, it disappears. And then you never see it again, like it's already gone. It is down the bottom, so it's not really a practical risk for dust for the rats. And what it does is it absorbs ammonia, not only out of moisture, but out of the air. And so it's not a replacement for cleaning your cage, but it definitely keeps ammonia as low as possible in between cage cleans, just by putting a little bit of it in high urine areas. For shavings, I use a dust-extracted, kiln-dried wood shaving. At the moment, I've been using Superior shavings. Toys really can be anything. I try not to keep too many bells and stuff. Not all rats appreciate it, but my latest litter is a bit sound sensitive, and that's something that I have noted and want to select away from. But now that they're older, the focus is now not on learning information about them I already know. It's on setting them up to be the best pets that they can be. And so learning about new sounds, especially sharp sounds, and that they're safe and fine is a thing. The focus is now on these guys living as good lives as possible. But like, that's a, I don't know if it's a pumice stone or if it's a bird toy or perch or something, but random junk finds its way, and it's the textures that they're interested in, right? For anyone who ever wonders if the beads get chewed on these, they really don't. All rats are different, but rats can chew through drywall without a hassle. A plastic bead won't hurt them. If that was an issue, then hides would also be an issue, because we all know rats chew their hides. That used to be a perfect circle. Every litter tray they chew the corners out of. I've got a little stack of litter trays here that, have lost the corners, and I'm actually going to see if I can just do a quick saw, cut the corner off, and then use my soldering iron to just spot weld the plastic together. And I just like to recycle, just get as much life out of my litter trays as possible. Litter trays are great if you're going to put a shelf in your cage and you don't want a wire shelf, which feet on wire like this is fine, guys. Like, you don't want to be walking on wire 24/7, but you also don't need to cover every single perch in the cage. That is a myth. They're not going to get bumblefoot from it. The only rats I've ever seen that have bumblefoot are rats that have either gait or weight issues. I don't know if there's other organisms overseas or anything, but that's the way it is. If I had an old rat with hind leg degeneration, I would change this up because legs may get caught in it. But other than that, it's fine. If you are gonna put like suspended layers in your cages, consider just drilling a hole in a litter tray and suspending that instead of making a flat ledge, because then they won't be able to push stuff everywhere, and you won't have to have it as like just a clear surface that they can just pee on and cause mischief. I think, is there any other aspects of cage design? I like to have movable bowls. Side mounted works for me. I find them easier to take out and clean frequently, and depending on the rats I've got in the cage, if I've got babies or older rats, I'll actually put them on the side of the litter trays like that, so that the rats can, like my old man Tazzy, can sort of just slug out in here and eat, and the babies can eat ergonomically. Whereas a lot of the rest of the time I like to have it up so that it doesn't get tipped over and tipped into the litter, and the food gets lost or wasted or goes moldy if it gets peed on, etc. Is there any more design stuff that might be fun? Probably not. PVC pipes are good, just clean between the cracks. The trays. The trays I've got are cut 5mm acrylic. You get the glue, and these are called fillets if you're going to make acrylic trays. Perspex is just a brand name for acrylic, for anyone wondering. These are little triangular fillets that you glue in there to make them a lot sturdier. They're not super, they're still brittle. If you're going to pull your trays in and out all the time for cleaning, I would definitely go with core flute because it's not as heavy. So this cage I lent a bale of shavings on because I was struggling to lift it and I was trying to clean the cages by myself. And I just snapped out a corner of my thing, but you can see that I've just used the Acrofix to attach it together, and the acrylic glue is actually just more acrylic that's dissolved in a solvent. So once it dries, like you can see the drips here, that's just hard acrylic now. So once it dries, it's safe. The solvent's pretty nasty for all involved, but that's why we use chemicals in a ventilated area. Salt pigs. Salt pigs seem to be a hot commodity. I've just used the stainless steel clips to make a little cage around the knob to suspend these in the air, to make a nice cool area. They seem to really dig that. There's There's one there in the boys' cage as well. And while I was getting the acrylic cut, I wanted to try something different for my own cage cards, especially now that I've got quite a few ratties. So I just got some squares cut and just put a washer, and I use wingnut bolts so they're easy to just grab with a pair of pliers and undo. And this is just chalk marker. You could use, of course you could use, what's it called, whiteboard marker, but whiteboard marker is opaque, whereas transparent, whereas this is opaque, so you can scratch it off, but honestly once it's dry it's a little bit more sturdy, and you can just grab a damp cloth and it just wipes off like chalk, like really, really easily. So, okay, I think that is just about it. For paper, I shred newspaper because it's light and fluffy and manipulatable. If they're too hot, they'll pull it out. If they're too cold, they'll pull it in. If they're too cold and you don't give them nesting material, they'll shred your hammocks. Hammocks are suspended up with clips, so I can just move them around easily to match the size of the hammock, and so that when they chew the corners off, I can just keep replacing it. You can see where they've had a bit of a chew on this stuff, not because it's required for their teeth, but because it's fun and it's a stem. You can see this pumice that's a different texture from the wood. They've had a good crack at, because it's more about the texture than the contents for them. Like if I put silicone beads on this, that'd be just obliterated instantly. So they don't really ingest it. It's just that. I do see people from time to time asking if they can put cuttlefish on it, and I would say yes, with the caveat that rats don't need it, and sometimes they will choose to eat and ingest the cuttlefish because calcium's a good thing for ratties to have, but depending on the rat, too high calcium can start leading to things like kidney stones. So just understand that cuttlefish is something that will be used to meet a dietary need, whether that need is perceived or real in the rat. And sometimes they'll be doing that when actually what they really need is iron or things like that. They're not that specific with their mineral cravings. They'll just crave mineral and then eat mineral. And it sometimes is not only the wrong mineral, but in the case of calcium, actually competes for binding with iron absorption. So anyway, I'm getting way off into the weeds now. So this is almost certainly going to be too long to post on Facebook without me jacking the quality way down. So I will stop. I'm looking forward to getting my rats back now that the worst of the heat is over. I think they've been much happier downstairs where it's cool. But yeah, miss my little guys. All right. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.